Greetings, respected Bante. Greetings, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our weekly Awakening Friends gathering. Uh, Today, I thought mm, to begin with a short practice. So today, Bante will be guiding us in a short walking meditation. Bante, with your permission, I would like to respectfully invite you to guide us in this short walking meditation.
Good evening, everyone. Let's join for a walking session, and you can turn on video and join more actively. For the walking, we simply select some path where we can walk comfortably, probably like 10-15 feet. That type of path would be enough. You select this space, you walk in a comfortable, natural manner, and while walking, you try to be mindful of your steps, the surrounding sights you see, the surrounding sounds are there, thoughts come and go, but among all these things, you can simply notice your steps. What we do is we simply try to continue the walking with that awareness. Time after time, our attention goes away. A variety of things grab our attention, but that's okay. Our very practice is simply to realize that we have gotten carried away, and with that awareness, you can again return your attention back to the walking. When you return, simply notice what do you feel first. Maybe you feel the heel touching. Maybe you feel the toes are pressing towards the ground. Maybe you feel certain sensations of the ground, the texture, temperature. So this way, it doesn't matter that we get carried away, but when we return, we can simply notice what we feel in the walking. That way, we try to verify that we are with the walking process. So all of us, let's take some time, probably till you hear the bell sound, you can join a walk-in session.
Thank you so much, Bante, for that beautiful guidance. And thank you so much, everyone, for that peaceful practice. Now we are moving to our next part of today's gathering, discourse discussion. For that, I would like to again respectfully invite our Bante to guide us in the discussion, and also Chatura, I would like to invite you to be our reader today as well. Today we will be reading from the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. We are referring to the second discourse, titled Abandoning the Hindrances. Today we are going to the second point on the page 91. Over to you, Chatura.
Okay. Thank you, Kalpit. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other thing on account of which unarisen ill will arises, and arisen ill will increases and expands so much as the mark of the repulsive. For one who attends carelessly to the mark of the repulsive, unarisen ill will arises, and arisen ill will increases and expands.
Okay, everyone. So we have a fresh discourse today. It goes with the chapter where Buddha talks about hindrances of the mind. So last time we did the first one, and we have the second one today. So how to explain this? Now, let's say we did the walking few minutes ago. When we walk, we usually select some space where we are comfortable walking, and we walk in a natural rhythm. While walking, we try to keep our attention with the steps. So we encourage you to practice every day, like 30 minutes of walking. It would be very nice, right? Select some space where you can walk comfortably, peacefully, and simply walk. Every day you try to walk for like 30 minutes. That's a good habit to create. That way you will see how that very 30 minutes, daily 30 minutes, how that will support your mindfulness. So this way we have to approach this gradually. Otherwise, this will be just a discussion. But in your mind, you will be a slave of these hindrances. They cover the truth. That's what Buddha is saying. The hindrances, they cover your mind, they cover the truth. It's like rust on a metal. The metal surface is underneath, but you can't see it because of the rust. So we reserve at least like 30 minutes daily for a mindful walking session. And every day when you continue for a few weeks, then you get to see the real benefits of that practice. So as a habit, if you can do at least like 30 minutes of mindful walking daily, that would be a good start for your practice. If there is newcomers here, then we really encourage you to do 30 minutes of walking practice daily. And when we walk, we take these steps as our primary object. Primary object might be a technical word for you. Basically, where do we keep our attention? So in the walking, you have to figure it out. Is it easier for me to keep my attention with the steps? Or is it easier for me to keep my attention with the movement of the legs? Or is it easier for me to keep my attention with the weight shifting, right? So that way, You have to figure out your primary object, which is the object that you keep your attention with. And in your mind, you bring your attention to this object repetitively. You feel the steps. You feel which parts of your steps are touching. Probably heel is touching first. The arc of your feet might not be touching. Then the ball of your feet is touching. Then the toes are touching. So this way we can feel how the steps are touching. Maybe there is a difference between the left leg versus the right leg. There's a prominent leg. It takes most of the weight, and the other one is simply supporting or dragging. Right? That type of observation might come. Then you can feel the weight shifting, how the bones, muscles are taking the body weight. It's a miracle, you know. You are 60, 70, 80 kilograms weight. Still, the body manages it very well. It's a miracle that we can walk like this. When we walk, mostly the whole body weight, it is balanced on a single leg. That's the miracle, right? You can always see the weight is balanced on a single leg. Even in the interchange, there's only one line of force, right? So that way, probably 60, 70 kilograms are balanced on a single leg. So we have to appreciate this more and more. It's a miracle that we can navigate the world like this. Don't wait till you break a leg to appreciate it, right? What we do is simply we walk for 30 minutes. We simply appreciate the walking. Simply be with that walking. So when we do that, we bring our attention to the bodily sensations, the walking sensations, probably the steps. That's where we keep our attention, right? So those steps, they are more like neutral. The bodily sensations, they are neutral sensations, right? But here, the Buddha is talking about mark of repulsive, right? Instead of a neutral sensation, your mind goes to some kind of a repulsive object. That is what's identified as mark of repulsive. What could be a repulsive object? Maybe few days ago, some hurtful incident happened, right? And it comes to your mind, repetitively it comes to your mind. And whenever that incident comes to your mind, you feel this repulsive nature, maybe anger arises, right? So that could be repulsive, a mark of repulsive. Then let's say there's a person at work that you don't get along well, right? So whenever you see that person, whenever you hear them talk, that would be a mark of repulsive. The anger arises, irritation arises, annoyance arises, right? So even seeing someone like that, hearing their voice, then remembering them, this could be mark of repulsive. Even some sights that you don't like, you know, some people talking, maybe you don't like them talking, right? Maybe there's a history behind that, right? So that way, these objects can be marks of repulsive. They can be sights, they can be sounds, they can be thoughts, certain memories. So this way, mark of the repulsive, it comes to our mind. And what happens? Right? That's the reason for unarisen ill will to arise. Arisen ill will to expand. Whenever you reflect or ponder upon these marks of repulsives, unarisen ill will arise. Arisen ill will expand. That's the basic idea here, right? Now, let's say, what do we do when we meditate? For example, walking, what we did today. Instead of these marks of repulsives or mark of attractive, we simply take this neutral object into our mind. We simply try to be with that object. That's how the very practice can counter these things. When you meditate, let's say for 30 minutes, when you try to keep your attention with the feet, those 30 minutes, you are maintaining your attention, at least you are trying to maintain your attention with a neutral object. It doesn't create mark of repulsive. It doesn't create mark of attractive. Right? So that's the very meditation. That's why we encourage you to observe your bodily sensations. In your day, if you can observe your bodily sensations, then those bodily sensations are more or less neutral, and those sensations will allow you to get rid of these hindrances, at least, block them for a while. In our days, we are not usually grounded in our bodies, so all these marks of repulsives, marks of attractives, they work. That's where our attention goes. Those things grab our attention mostly, right? So that's why it's a good practice for you to be grounded in your body. It shouldn't be a obstacle for your daily activities. Instead, you do your things in a natural way and simply try to be grounded in your body every now and then. Simply notice the steps when you start walking somewhere. Simply notice at least a couple of sips of what you drink. When you eat something, at least notice few bites. In that way, we try to maintain our attention with the bodily sensations, and that helps us to prevent these marks of repulsives coming to our mind. That's the very idea. This mindfulness practice, it prevents a lot of things, but we don't appreciate the prevention. What happens to most of us, that's we appreciate corrective nature. Corrections we appreciate. We get into trouble, we correct ourselves. But prevention we don't appreciate. We don't feel the friction, we don't feel the pain. It is prevented, right? So while being with the primary object, while being with this neutral object, many things are prevented. When you practice mindfulness, depression is prevented, right? So these things gradually become bigger and bigger, lead us towards a depression. So if you can simply be mindful, if you can continue with your practice, daily practice, then most of the things are prevented. Now, let's say few days ago, I met a child, a boy, 11 years old, and that child was having certain intrusive thoughts in his mind, right? So maybe to harm the parents, maybe to kill them even. Those type of intrusive thoughts. That's boy's problem, and it shows certain OCD tendencies. Due to these intrusive thoughts, he feels guilty, and due to that guilt, certain obsessions appear. Right? He does like bowing rituals in order to get rid of that guilt. Maybe like 20, 30 times bowing, trying to ask for forgiveness, something like that, right? So you can see OCD tendencies are there, but what's the origin of that? Simply those intrusive thoughts to harm the parents. So they could be marks of repulsive. Ill will arises in the mind. And due to that, he feels guilty. And in order to counter the guilt, the rituals come, right? Obsessions come. So how to tell that kid that you are not responsible for these thoughts that come to your mind? How can we tell him that you are not the owner of these thoughts? No foundation, no potential to tell something like that, right? If you don't know mindfulness, you simply become the owner of your thoughts, right? We claim the ownership without even knowing. We claim the ownership. These thoughts come to my mind. I am responsible. That's the very idea, right? So you can see how ill will can arise, unarise and ill will can arise and ill will can expand. But simply the origin was a thought. If we know mindfulness, we can say you are not the owner of these thoughts. All the time, good and bad thoughts, they come to our mind. Usually we prefer the good ones. We prefer the good thoughts. We say, I am the owner of those thoughts. Then the bad thoughts, you become the owner and you want to get rid of them. But what we encourage is simply good thoughts are good thoughts, bad thoughts are bad thoughts. You are not the owner of them. Right? Simply know them as thoughts. Let them come and go, but simply know that some good thoughts are coming, some bad thoughts are coming. They are two sides of the same coin, thoughts, right? So that type of a lesson is needed for that child. But how can we convince him? So the mother was asking, Bhante, what can we do about this? I told her, this is the idea, but how can we convince him? He doesn't know mindfulness. So I asked her to, somehow let him join a certain weekly session, probably go to Kaduela, where they can physically join and play, maybe interesting session. So that way, if they continue for few months, few years, then only we can convince him that you are not the owner. There are children in our usual sessions. They come to the session for many years. They have been coming and they say, thoughts come and go. It doesn't bother me. I can stay mindful throughout that process. Some thoughts are good thoughts. Some thoughts are bad thoughts. What's the matter? Right? So that way you can see simply these type of marks of the repulsive. They can really hurt us. They can really expand into something bigger. And when that happens, what can you do? You are helpless, right? So that's a good way to practice, we know mindfulness, we improve our practice, and gradually we know the thoughts come and go, but we don't have to claim ownership to them. They are more like the clouds in the sky. But in order for you to understand or accept it like that, it might take few months, even few years. That time is needed. But gradually we realize all these thoughts come and go. I don't have to be the owner of them. Due to certain causes, without my approval, these thoughts are coming. And when the causes are no longer there, without telling me, they disappear. That's the very nature. We don't have to give so much weight or value to these thoughts. In this new age, thoughts are overrated. The world will tell us that these things are valuable. New creations, thinking, critical thinking, all those things are valuable. Of course, when you work, when you deal with the world, it's necessary. But they don't have to be the owner of you. Instead, you use them as a tool, and when it's not necessary, you keep it aside. Right? That ability, that potential should be improved. Otherwise, we become slaves of our thoughts. Imagine that little boy, 11 years old, and basically has become a slave to those intrusive thoughts to harm, right? So what can we do? How can we help him? If you take him to a doctor, they will say, I'll give some medication. But can it cure it? It will suppress it for a while, and some people after a while they feel better. But it's not cure. It's not a cure. So that's why they say meditation or medication. You choose. If you like, you can do meditation. It will prevent most of these things. Otherwise, medication, probably lifelong medication, is needed, right? So that's how it works. But the origin is that marks of the repulsive. Ill will arises, and the arisen ill will expands, and it goes into anger. It goes into shouting at each other. It goes into hitting people. It goes into killing people. That's how it expands. Right? You see many videos of road rage. How people are becoming slaves to the ill will. Even some murder that happened in USA. In that public gathering, I think he was Clark Kirk or someone. He was shot dead, right? Why? That some boy, he didn't like his ideas. That man, he was speaking to young crowds, going around the country, spreading his message, whatever it is. And somebody didn't like it, and he was shot right into the neck and head area, right? So that's ill will expanding into a murder even, right? But the origin of all these things, all these complications, are simply a mark of repulsive in your mind. It goes into ill will, it goes into anger, it goes into rage. That's how it increases. And when we think about the anger, ill will, rage in our mind, it basically acts like a poison. Let's say, like a snake bite, a poison is injected into your body, venom, right? And that very venom will destroy your mind and body. Initially, it originates in your mind, then it comes to your body. Imagine a moment that you are angry. Maybe you struggle with anger for 15 minutes. You shout, you scream, you try to fight someone. That way, you become a slave to anger for 15 minutes. And after that, you can really feel some detoxing symptoms. That poison came to your body and mind, and then you see the results of it, right? The body reacts exactly like it reacts to a poison, venom. So anger is a venom. And the funny thing is that you try to harm the other person by injecting yourself the venom, right? And anger, basically, the idea is to harm the other person, harm the situation that you don't like, right? You inject venom yourself and you wish that the other people will be harmed. That's not the case. The main damage comes to you because you inject yourself with this venom or the poison, right? That's how it works. And let's say you get into an argument early in the morning with your spouse probably, and you go to work, your whole day is ruined. You can't work, you can't think clearly, right? You don't feel at ease in your body. All these symptoms, all these difficulties come, right? So it really acts like a venom when we become a slave to our anger. You can prevent it at initial stages, but when it crosses a certain level, you can't do, right? So that's how this works. Anger is really like a venom or poison in your mind. You inject it yourself and you wish that the other person will be harmed. But the main harm will come to you. That's how it is. And there are certain ways, certain suggestions that Buddha gives us. But the main idea behind all of them is simply to be mindful and to know where you should keep your attention. That's the very idea. There's this teaching, and there Buddha explains 5 different ways how you should be dealing with these type of objects, the marks of the repulsive, right? The first way, simply to replace this particular object with a different one. He is giving this simile of replacing a nail with another nail, right? Probably a wooden peg. He says a bigger peg could be replaced with a smaller peg. So you are simply replacing this object with some other object, simply coming to your steps, right? You get thoughts, certain marks of repulsives come to your mind, but instead of pondering upon them, you simply return your attention back to the steps, right? That's a valid way. Then another different way is suggesting that you should be someone like, someone who appreciate being clean, and suddenly some snake carcass or something like that that's dropped onto your body, right? This person likes being clean, probably a clean freak, suddenly jumps away, getting rid of this carcass. It was dropped onto that person's body and suddenly jumps out of it and escape from the carcass, right? So that type of a simile is given. Simply think that this type of object is not proper for me. I shouldn't be having it in my mind, that type of a idea. You simply escape from it. You simply jumps out of it, right? That's another way of getting rid of it. Then the third way is suggesting simply to ignore. Another simile is given. Let's say you walk somewhere, you see some dog shit on the path. You don't ponder upon it. You don't keep observing it, watching it. No, you quickly get out of there, right? You look away. That way you ignore these type of objects, right? That's another way. Then here, the fourth way would be to reflect upon it. Reflect upon it. Find the root cause of it. Maybe avoid that root cause, something like that. He says a person is running and he reflects, why am I running? I feel so tired because of the running. Maybe it's better I should walk. And he starts walking. It becomes easier for him. Then he reflects, why am I walking? Right? It's tiring for me. If I stop, if I simply stand, then it will be easier for me. Then after standing, he thinks, why am I standing? Maybe it's easier for me to, sit. That will be a much better posture for me. He sits. Then again he reflects, why am I sitting? If I lie down, then it'll be much better. So that way, he goes into a much more comfortable, less tiring, less difficult pose, right? Similarly, you reflect upon these things and you figure out the root cause, maybe avoid it. Maybe avoid certain things so the marks of repulsive don't come to your mind. Maybe deal with certain people in a different way. Maybe more mindfully you deal with them, right? So that way you try to get rid of the root causes of this. Then the fifth one, if nothing works, like how you punch and push away an intruder, you forcefully remove these objects from your mind. So the different ways are suggested, but everything simply based on being mindful. That's the very idea. You can't do any of them without being mindful. You see that these objects are coming, you can experiment with them. You can experiment different ways, figure out what works best for you, right? That space is there, that flexibility is there for you to figure out the best way to deal with them. But the very first step would be for you to be mindful, identify that this is happening, right? That's the very idea. And last time we were talking about marks of the attractive. And I think one of you suggested that why not we take marks of the unattractive to our mind. Something like that. So that too is a valid method. Instead of the mark of the attractive, you take the mark of the unattractive. to your mind. But I explained about venom and antivenom. Even antivenom has certain consequences, right? So when you take the mark of the unattractive to your mind, sometimes it might create a certain marks of the repulsive in your mind, right? This reflecting upon on the marks of the unattractive might lead you towards marks of the repulsive, anger, right? That has happened to certain people. They meditate on the marks of the unattractive, and as a result, the anger is created. So you can see anti-venom. It has consequences. I know one person, she wasn't a meditator. She was sick and tired of her life, and she went to, I think, 5-day retreat on a certain method. One monk conducted. He is probably no longer a monk, but anyway, some different method. Basically, they were reflecting upon marks of the unattractive. And after 5 days, she was suicidal because of that very practice, right? Already sick and tired of life. Why make you suicidal? Instead, mindfulness is simple. Mindfulness is, simply being at ease with yourself. We don't try to create additional formations. Instead, we try to minimize them. Simply enjoying the moment, simply embracing the moment. That's the very idea, right? So you don't have to meditate and, make yourself suicidal. That's not necessary. Instead, simply letting go of these things little by little, simply embracing the present moment. And we encourage you to simply enjoy the activity at hand. Right? When you're having a meal, simply enjoy it. Feel the taste. Why shouldn't you do that? Right? When you drink something, simply enjoy it. When you sit in nature, see the birds singing. See the sun rising. See the nature. Enjoy the nature. That way we try to simply be in the present moment. Simply continue with our mindfulness, and that very practice will help most of us to find peace within. That's the very idea. I think I have taken probably too much time, but this is an interesting topic to discuss.
Thank you so much, Bhante. Thank you so much for that valuable teaching. Thank you. And thank you, Chaturu, for bringing the text into life for us. As we come to the end of our discussion, I would like to open the space for any closing thoughts, reflections, or questions. We still have 5 or so minutes. If anyone has anything to share, and this is your time. Keshan, please unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you so much, Bhante, for the teaching. I did the walking meditation as well. Prior to doing the meditation, I was walking for about 1.5 hours. That has given me enough tiredness as well. You brought up great points, and you brought up a incident that happened in US. I myself lives here. One of the things what I wanted to share with you, and just to ask for that question, it's all good we talk about these type of aspects, but what I want to know from the spiritual side of it, how we as human beings sort of adhere to day, should we sort of, I think we talk about the rightful speech, and more than the teaching aspect for us about our living and the way we conduct our lives, and the rightful way to sort of share the information rather than mislead the public. I think that was one of the reason the assassination that has happened. But I don't want to get there, but I want to share the reasoning as since you brought it up, and simply because of the right full conversations not happening in this part of the world. So I think with that said, I just want to hear from your thoughts. We as human beings, how should we absorb these conversations, and how should we sort of disseminate them, or how should we respond to certain things? I'll let you speak. Thank you. I hope my question is clear.
Yes, so complicated situations are there in the world. That's true. And we can't change the society. If we take the challenge of changing the society, I don't think it's a task that we can complete. But what we can do is simply focus on ourselves. We change ourselves for the better. And when we change ourselves, it adds on to the society. Gradually the entire world changes one by one. That's how it should be. And some of the meditators, let's say they don't know meditation initially, they don't know mindfulness initially, but they start on it, they work on their practice, and they come and they tell, Bhante, the home environment, it was very troubling. I was getting so annoyed, angry for many years, but now it feels like even the other people are meditating. My family members are meditating. It feels like entire world is meditating. What is the reason? Right? Are they meditating, or is it something else? So when they meditate, they feel like the whole world is becoming peaceful. Even their family members seems to be meditating. That type of a observation. So you have to understand the very root of all these things. It's in our mind. So simply changing ourselves, we can change the world. That's how. That's why Rumi's words. Rumi says, yesterday I was smart. I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise. I'm changing myself. Right? So that's the very idea. That's how you should do. You change yourself. You become wise. You try to change the world. You are smart. You want to change the others. Change the situations. That would be a never-ending task. So in meditation, we try to change ourselves. We try to become wise. We try to make sure that we speak properly. We try to make sure that we take our time with our answering, right? By mindful communication. It's a whole new practice, whole new area that we can talk about. The origin is mindfulness. Simply being mindful and maybe listen to the other person first without jumping the gun. Wait from them to complete it. And after reflecting, maybe you can stay mute. No need to answer. Right? Or maybe silence would be a good answer for many of the problems, right? Then even when you answer, you can carefully figure out your words. So that way we can practice and change ourselves. I think that very change will lead to a better world.
Very good. Thank you, Bhante. Really appreciate.
I think since we ran out of our meeting time, we can call it a day today. Thank you everyone. I would like to take this very opportunity to extend my gratitude on behalf of everyone here to our teacher, Bhante, for his presence, for his valuable teachings and guidance as always. And also thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your presence and your practice and your valuable participation. Thank you so much. We will be meeting again next week, same time. Take care. Have a good day.